Yeah, this your homegirl, Arabia Barbosa, 914, Westchester County, New York. We gonna talk about this shit. We gonna talk about this shit and get it over and done with. Cause I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of people from the heterosexual community talking about the gay community. Let me tell you something. My name is Arabia Barbosa, 914 Western County, New York. I was born March the 18th, 1973. And I was born to two people that were heterosexuals and they had two children through my mother, through my fucking father. A shout out to both of them. Shout out to them for having me. It was just sex. It was just pleasure. It was not planned. I was not planned. I was born here without my permission. So shout out to the chat. Shout out to the motherfucking chat. It is what it is. 914 was the county. New York. Anybody got any complaints? You can hit the fucking link. Hit the fucking link. Or shut the fuck up forever. And I'm going to talk about the heterosexual community. I'm going to talk about how they damaged me, how they destroyed me, how they took away my chances in life, and how I had to build my own chances through the gay community, the LGBT community. Thanks to the LGBT community, I was able to rebuild my fucking life. I had to rebuild my life from 14 all the way until now, 51. 14 years old. But let me tell you something what happened to me. I was born, I was raised, I had to go into the fucking foster care system and get adopted by people that did not want me. They only wanted the fucking money. Heterosexuals. Heterosexuals. Everybody, oh, well, why the LGBT community feel so angered? You know why we feel angered? Because when you heterosexual parents have children and the children turn out to be gay or bisexual and they tell you about it, you put them out of the fucking house. You don't put them out of the house because they robbed somebody. You don't put them out of the house because they murdered somebody. You didn't do that. You did not do that. You put them out because of their sexual orientation or how they felt about themselves. Shout out to the motherfucking chat. It is what the fuck it is. And I'm sick and tired of the church getting a pass. Because the church is a part of all this bullshit. The school system is a part of this bullshit. The juvenile detention centers are part of this bullshit. Let's be honest. Let's be fucking honest. When I was 9 years old, I was sexually abused as a fucking child. All the way until I was what, 14? So when I did tell my parent that was raising me, she said it was not molestation, it was not this, it was not that, it was a relationship. How the fuck was it a fucking relationship? I was a non-consenting child at that time. But as I got older, I decided to take everything into my own hands. And any sexual experience I had after that was my sexual experience. Shout out to the motherfucking chat. I am your homegirl, Arabia Barbosa. And I'm going to tell the truth about the church and about the heterosexual community as a whole. Shout out to the chat. It's all in one pocket because they all run in the same circles. They don't give a fuck about the children. They don't give a fuck about what they do do or how they raise us. When they do certain things to you sexually, you will never be the same again. You will never reclaim that time again. I can keep coming up here on the Maxine Waters video, reclaim my time, reclaim my time. I'm not reclaiming nothing. It's all been gone. It's water under the bridge now. It's spilled milk now, right? Shout out to the chat. But a lot of you don't understand that. You don't believe that. You don't believe it. You don't understand it. You don't accept it. Then you want to go and talk about God. You want to talk about God. God don't give a fuck about none of us. You talking about a God that lives in heaven. That God doesn't exist. What is that God's name? You can't even give me the name of that God. But you give me the name of the demons. You give me the name of the devil. You give me the name of Lucifer. Well, why didn't none of y'all pray for Lucifer? When you knew about his sin, you knew about what he did, it's written in the Bible, wherever it's written at, why didn't you Christians pray for Satan to get saved or Satan to come to his senses? None of you did. You was always afraid. You was taught to be afraid. There was no devil. There was no Lucifer. And you all know it. You know it. But you lied to yourselves. During the 1980s, when I was living in New York, as a child, as a teenager, later on, I remember the streets of New York being flooded by people that came from other states. A lot of those children joined up with the houses that was in the village. A lot of them joined up because you know why they joined up? Because they were a part of the gay community. They knew they was not accepted by their parents. They was never going to be accepted by their family, nothing. So that's why they came to New York. A lot of people was running away, going to California. Y'all don't talk about that. You don't talk about it. I'm the only one that's alive to talk about this. Other people is alive too, but they refuse to talk about it because they are afraid that something's going to happen to them. I'm no longer afraid. I faced my fears years ago. Years ago. Shout out to the chat. I am your homegirl, Arabia Bubbles, and I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened with these children, these runaway children? They ran away. They ran away from the South. They ran away from the western part of the United States. They ran away. They went to New York. They went to California. They went to New Jersey. They went to Connecticut. They went to Boston. They went to Rhode Island. They went to Vermont. They went to Maine. They went to Virginia. Some of them ran to South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. These children ran. Why did they run? Because their parents put them out. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. The LGBT community has knowledge of it, but that community can't heal the hurts of those children. Now, those children are now grown ups. Most of them are grown ups now. Those that ran away during the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, y'all all grown. We're all grown now. A shout out to the chat. We living in one garden under the LGBT community flag. Our community. We stand strong. We stand fast. We refuse to die. Shout out to the chat. Even though we've been hit by a few missiles here and there. Shout out to the chat. It is what it is. Y'all don't talk about that. Y'all don't talk about how y'all abused those children. Y'all don't talk about how you beat them. You don't talk about how you sexually molested them. You don't talk about nothing. You try to hide it and sweep it under the rug and say that it did not happen. But it did happen. It did happen in your own homes. In your own homes. And you threw those children out. And now we are rising as a big community, even though we are divided amongst ourselves. But even in our own division, we still rise. And we ride with one each other. We support each other. We help each other. And when we reach out to the heterosexual community, we are sometimes rejected. It's a reality. It's a reality. You know how many times I was rejected? Most of my life. Until recently. I was not rejected in one different place. But that place is no longer here anymore. So I have to rise to the occasion. I have to rise to the occasion. A shout out to the chat. I am your homegirl, Arabia Barbosa. And I'm going to talk about how we was raised in those homes. We was never accepted. We was only accepted because those people were getting payments for us. I found out it was monthly payments, payments to pay for clothing allowance, and other substances. You think I didn't find out about that? Oh, I found out. And I'm not happy about it. And neither or none of those children are going to be happy about it. When I went to Job Corps years ago, way before I went to prison, way before I ever thought about going to prison, I went to Job Corps years ago. And you know, I met other young people just like myself. But some of those young people was involved with the gang situation street organizations, vice lords, black peace stones, uh, black gangster disciples, crips, cripplettes, bloodlets, four corner hustlers. You know, I found out all that when I was in Job Corps. And you know what I found out? We all had to work together in one time, certain times. But when the divisions was back up, they were back up. A shout out to the chat. And you got to remember, a lot of those children that went into the Job Corps system, they were also members or inmates of the juvenile justice department. Yeah, a lot of them were juvenile delinquents. They were rubbed out. They were sponged as being criminals. I found out years ago I was being labeled as a criminal way before I was 21 years old. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. I was labeled as a criminal. You know why I was labeled as a criminal? Because I went into the fucking foster care system. I didn't have no mom. I didn't have no dad to speak up for me. I only had my grandmother. My grandmother tried to get custody of me and my brother. Yes, she did. She went into the court system, family court system, tried to get custody of me and my brother. She could not get custody of us. For some reason, the system didn't want her to have custody of us. And then later on, when I met my biological mother, she informed me that she was the one that spoke up against that happening. And I asked her, I said, why did you do that? Why did you do that? What you should have did, the right thing what my mother should have did was allow my grandmother to get custody of me and my brother. That's what she should have did, but she didn't want to do that because she was selfish, just like a lot of you black women are. You're selfish. You think about yourselves all the time. You don't want them children. You don't want to take care of them. It's too much responsibility. But you don't want your children to be happy. You don't want your children to be safe. So you put them in harm's way. You put us in the fucking foster care system. You allow us to get adopted by people that you don't like, people you don't respect, but everybody else respect them. I was raised by a woman that hated me. Hated me. Every day I was in that fucking house. And I knew it. I knew how much she hated me. I knew. I didn't care what she did when I went into the fucking penitentiary. I didn't care. The only truth came out when Sergeant Crystal Reagan died. August of 2011. That's when the real truth came out. A lot of real truth started coming out around that time. A lot of y'all don't know that about me. You only think what you know or what you see. I'm not mad with Sister T. I'm not mad with her at all. Not mad. Y'all think I'm mad with her, but I'm not. I'm not mad with nobody on YouTube. Because YouTube didn't do this to me. The real world did this to me. And I got to go back into the real world tomorrow. I went into the real world today. I go in the real world. Every time I leave this fucking house, every time I sign my name somewhere, I'm going into the fucking real world. And the heterosexual community set me up. Set me up for fucking failure. Set me up to get killed. Set me up to get raped. Set me up to be molested. Set me up to be beat as a child. Set me up. It's a setup. Ain't no chessboard here. Ain't no checkmate here. It was a setup. I know it and you know it. And I ain't never gonna forget it. Never gonna forget it, never gonna forgive it. Shout out to the chat. It was not the gay community that raped me or beat me or emotionally did stuff to me. It was the heterosexual community. You guys did it. And I knew I was never ever going to be accepted in the heterosexual community. I knew that. I knew I would never have children. I knew I would never have a family life like the rest of America. The American dream. That never happened to me. I got the American nightmare. The American terror mare. Where you sleep at night and you wake up in the middle of the night because you're screaming, you're hollering, you're in sweats. You're calling for your mama and your mama ain't there. She ain't never gonna be there. Even though you know she's still alive. My adoptive mother is dead. My adoptive father is dead. My biological father is dead. Who's alive? The main people that put all this bullshit on my shoulders as a young child. They wanted me to be an adult way before I was even 21 years old. Way before. They wanted me to be an adult at 2 years old. And you can't tell me they didn't want that. We got social workers right here on this app. We got doctors right here on this app. We got psychiatrists right here on this app. We got all these people that's a part of the mental health community, but they remain fucking silent in this sector. Oh yeah, y'all talk all the shit in all these other sectors. But in this sector, y'all silent. You keep silent. You keep quiet like church mice. You keep quiet. You have nothing to say. Let me tell you something. When Sergeant Christopher Reagan and her children got murdered in Newport News, Virginia, don't you know I left from out of New York, went to Newport News, Virginia, and spoke to the district attorney? Don't you know I spoke to the detectives? Don't you know I spoke to everyone that has something to do with that fucking case? But at the end of the day, none of them could bring back Sergeant Christopher Reagan from the grave. None of you. You couldn't bring back Sierra from the grave. You couldn't bring back Laquan. You couldn't bring back Rashid. You couldn't bring back none of them from the fucking grave. But you are the heterosexual community, right? You believe in God, right? So what the fuck happened? The fuck happened that day, that night? What the fuck happened? Now, I acknowledge that Sergeant Krista Reagan made some bad decisions. I acknowledge that. But she was a part of the heterosexual community. You all failed her. You failed her. You failed me. You failed a lot of children in the United States. You failed all those runaways. You failed the gay community. That's why the gay community is being built up as strong as it is. And it needs to be as strong as it is. Because that's all I got left. The gay community. That's all I got left. Shout out to the chat. It is what it is. 914 Western County, New York. I am your homegirl, Arabia Barbosa. And I'm angry. I'm angry with the heterosexual community. I'm angry with your perception of who God is. Because we all know your perception of God is incorrect. Your perception of God, of who God is incorrect. You're wrong. You know you're wrong. Go into Santeria religion. Go into voodoo and hoodoo religion. You will see that God is not a man, but a man and a woman. And sometimes God is androgynous. Get both male and female attributes. And a lot of you don't want to accept that. But it's reality. And it's real. Shout out to the chat. I might be talking too much, but shout out to the chat. It is what it is. 914. I'm closing out this video. Thank everyone for coming over and looking at this video, viewing this video. Like and share the video. Like and share the video. Regardless of what I said or how I said it, like and share it. Don't be scary. Do it. Do it today. Do it tonight before you go to sleep. Because 4 o'clock in the morning, I got to get up and I got to go and do what I did today. I got to go. Because I got to pay these fucking bills. My life does not stop because of what happened to me at 9 years old. My life does not stop what happened to me at 21. My life does not stop what happened to me at 36. My life does not stop what happened to me in my 40s. Now I'm 51 years old. I'm 51 years old. And I gotta take charge. And a lot of bitches and a lot of niggas don't want me to take charge. They want me to shiver in a corner somewhere. You want me to shrink down to a mouse size or a roach size. I will never be a roach. I will never be a mouse. I will never be a louse. I will always be the image of God. Arm, leg, arm, head. Shout out to the chat. 360 degrees. Shout out to the chat. My birthday is March the 18th, 1973. I'm 51 years old. And my name is Arabia Barbosa. The original BT 1000. That's who I am. Shout out to the chat. I'm out of here.